This edition of MacVoices is brought to you by Opsgenie by Atlassian. With Opsgenie, your next incident doesn't stand a chance. Visit Opsgenie.com for your free account. Welcome to MacVoices. This is the talk of the Apple community, and I'm Chuck Joyner. Folks, I'm always excited to have someone from Applicant for Girls on because I think it is such a great thing. It's a great cause. It's something that really supports our community, not just in the present, but also for the future. Because whenever you're getting young people, and especially young women, involved in tech, that's going to pay dividends that are going to be reaped a long time from now. So that's why I'm happy I get to welcome a whole lot of people from AppCamp. This is great. So first up, Grey Osten, the co-founder of AppCamp for Girls. Great to see you again as always.
Thanks. Great to be here.
And then we don't have an executive director now. We have co-executive directors, which I think are kind of interesting. Aleen and Michelle are the new co-executive directors of Applicant for Girls. So, ladies, thank you for being here. It's great to have you.
For having us.
Yes, thanks. I'm excited to be here.
Oh, it's great. And I know I won't say who, but at least one member of the panel has not done a podcast before. So we will have some fun with this. And at the end of we will not chastise anybody. How's that? We're just going to have some fun. So I think it's probably a good idea to start out with what AppCamp for Girls is. I gave it a little bit of an introduction, and probably anyone that knows MacVoices knows AppCamp for Girls. But Grey, how about if you give us a quick profile of AppCamp for Girls?
Yeah, that'd be great. So AppCamp for Girls, at AppCamp for Girls, we teach week-long summer camps where we teach middle school age girls, transgender and gender nonconforming youth how to program. We're really passionate about what we do, obviously. We're also entirely staffed with role models or possibility models for the youth that come to camp. So all of the people that are involved with the we call them developers on a day-to-day basis at camp are also folks who identify as women who are transgender or who are gender nonconforming. We think that's really important because it means that these kids during their week at camp are surrounded by a bunch of people that they get to look up to or that they could maybe see themselves growing into. So that's most of what we do. Aleen, Michelle, do you have anything to add to that?
I think just to add on to why we're staffed primarily by women and gender nonconforming folks is studies show that part of the reason that girls specifically don't go into technical careers at the rates that we see boys going into technical careers is because of the lack of mentorship, which is why it's so important for us at camp to make sure that we're providing those role models, because it's really addressing one of the major issues that that young folks encounter when they're thinking about what they want to do when or if they grow up.
When or if they grow up? I like that.
Yes.
I like that. Yeah. Anybody on the panel here grown up? I didn't think so.
No. Definitely not.
Yeah. No. Good. So that gives us sort of a baseline. Michelle and Aleen, how long have you both been involved with AppCamp for Girls? Is this something new for you as co-executive directors, or have you been around for a while?
No, I first got involved in 2014. I was a project team manager, we called it, which is one of the people who works directly with our developers for the week. And I did that for 3 years. And then I moved into a co-organizing role, which is handling the logistics of camp after that, and did that for 2 years as well. And so this is year 5 going into it for me.
That's great. And Aleen, I think you were shaking your head as well, that you've been involved before this.
Yeah, I volunteered at Portland Camp in 2015 and then started organizing camp in Phoenix for 2016 and then did Phoenix Camp 2016 and 2017. I've done fundraising efforts and a whole bunch of other stuff since then. So we're going on, I guess, almost 4 years now that I've been involved with camp.
Okay. So, and Grey, I know that you are, by trade, a programmer. So I will ask Aleen, what is your background? Are you programming as well, or in the technology industry?
I am. It's actually a really complicated question for me to answer. I'm a podcaster. I am a freelancer. I work with independent app developers. I am a technical communicator by trade. So I do a lot of kind of marketing. I used to, when I worked for a company, I did like user guides. I've worked as an IT coordinator in the healthcare field. So my whole career has been technical. It's just kind of the facet of tech that I've specifically done has kind of varied over time.
Okay. And Michelle, how about your background?
My background is that I have a degree in music education and then immediately became a web designer. So I didn't use that at all, other than hopefully good interface design. And from there, I got interested in programming, moved on to programming for a while. I did WordPress for about the last 9.5 years. And yeah, I've just been doing custom programming ever since and some security.
Okay. So I'm always interested in that just because App Camp for Girls is a technologically oriented thing. And so it just makes sense that you would have technologically oriented people who are, participating in it, because it is not uncommon, I think, to have organizations like this run by what I don't want to say professional bureaucrats. That's not what I meant. But professional managers, if you will. And so this is not one of those situations. It's the people that really know what they're doing. You probably could go in and teach any of the classes yourselves. So that lends, I think, quite a bit of credibility to the organization. So at this point, why co-executive directors? Has the job just become too big for one person to handle? Or is it just a matter of you two are both busy with all kind of projects of your own that you can't take on the role full time?
It's probably a twofold answer to that. I know that we are both self-employed as well, so we're running our own businesses, but we were speaking with the board and there was this need for executive director. And I know that we're both very passionate about the organization. And so we've decided, with the board that we're splitting the role. We're both part-time. We're not full-time for camp. So we work together and have different strengths that we're focusing on, I think, that we both bring to camp. And I think we make a great team. And the board saw that. And I really am very excited. We just started last week, basically. So already I feel like there's a very good synergy between the two of us working as co-executive directors to make camp just have a brighter future ahead.
It was kind of a situation where the board, the need to have an executive director came up, and the board was like, well, Aleen or Michelle, do you want to do this? And then we kind of started talking, and Michelle would be like, I really see the need for us to do this thing. And I would say, oh yeah, and we could do it this way. And I would say, and also we need to do this thing. And she'd say, oh yeah, and I have these other ideas. And so initially it wasn't a thing where the board asked us both to do it. It was, they asked us individually if either would be interested, and then you would do an interview process or whatever. And after we started talking to one another, we were like, we should really just do this together. And we talked to the board about it, and I think the board kind of saw that meeting of the minds and that synergy that we have. And they were like, yeah, I think this would be a good fit. So that's kind of how it came to be, is we just really, it was never presented as a competitive thing, like, a head-to-head match for battle of executive director or whatever. But but it was definitely a thing where they were thinking it would be an either or type situation. And Michelle and I both are really passionate. I mean, we've been volunteers for years. We've put a lot of time and energy and dedication and love into the organization. And I think paramount for both of us was that whatever decision was reached, it would be what was best for App Camp, not necessarily what was best for us personally or professionally, but we're both very invested in seeing App Camp succeed. And whatever that looks like, whatever success is, we want that for camp. And so it was just kind of fun to start talking and be like, we should really just do this together, shouldn't we? So
I love the idea that, first of all, you two clearly get along and are able to work together. But I like the idea that one person isn't necessarily responsible for it, because that creates a point of weakness. Because everybody, especially if you're both self-employed, everybody can get busy. Everybody has those little life crises of one kind or another, work crises, which seem to be more frequent than life crises most of the time. Yeah. And so, if one of you is extra stressed, it's not like App Camp is going to be hurt by that. Just the load may shift a little bit, then shift back. Grey, as a co-founder of App Camp, how do you feel about how it's developed? I mean, I think you and I probably had some conversations with Gene McDonald years ago. It really has been years about what App Camp was going to be, and now it's grown into something a lot larger, I think, than probably you originally anticipated.
Yeah, it's shocking. I think, to think back, I remember being at Fire on the Mountain with Gene and Kelly and talking about, the sort of initial little granules, or like the nugget of the initial idea of what camp was. And then to step back now and to see what it's become is really inspiring. I think it's really cool now. Like, we have this well-oiled machine. We have this curriculum that we know works, that we know is successful. We have a formula for putting on camp that works really well. And I think now the time is right for us to work on really honing that in and building it into a well-oiled machine, and continuing to build the community that makes camp so fantastic. When we started this, I was sort of thinking about it in terms of, the curriculum. So like, oh, well, what are we going to teach and what materials are we going to have? But it also turned into this really amazing community. And that was one of the most inspiring parts about it for me. And I think especially with what Michelle and Aleen bring to the table, the community that Aleen built with Less Than or Equal with her podcast, and the community that Michelle has built here in Portland, organizing the Portland camps, like that community that makes camp so strong is something that I think Michelle and Aleen are just going to take off and run with.
It's got to be one of the biggest challenges you have to face is trying to spread it out geographically. It's one thing to do it in Portland, and it's great, and that does not make it any less of a success. But I know there's so many people that would love to see camps hosted in their town or their state. And it's not just a matter of saying, oh, okay, we're going to go to, Paducah and we're going to do an app camp for girls. There are a lot of logistics associated with it because you want to deliver that quality experience. Michelle, I'll ask you, how are you trying to address some of those challenges?
Well, one of the first things Aleen and I are doing is going through all of the logistics of camp and trying to figure out what we can do to make it easier, make it less, I don't want to say less expensive, more cost effective per developer that we have in our camp. So we're going through everything now and trying to make the processes just as efficient as they can be. But a large component of that too is this community that Grey is talking about, and finding the developers in these cities where they want us to come, finding people who can do the organizing for a camp, finding corporate sponsors who want to give us money for camps. That's always a great thing too. Every little bit helps. So a lot of that is focusing on making it efficient and also building this community, because it's the community and the volunteers who really make each camp successful.
So to be clear on that, when you talk about developers, we're talking about software developers that come in and volunteer their time to help teach the campers what to do and how to do it.
Yes, each camp has what we call a lead developer. So that's the person who's leading this curriculum that Grey and the curriculum team have built. So we do need somebody in each city to take the lead on that. But we also have other developers and people in the tech industry who volunteer with the camps and mentor and work directly with people to just provide that community, as we've been saying, but to the developers as well as to each other, because it's a great way to find each other, and they all have this shared passion for camp. And yeah, we might need to edit that a little bit. I went off the rails there again.
No, I think it's perfect. I mean, it speaks to just what you're trying to do. But listen, I'm gonna dig into the weeds a little bit here. Greg, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, to tack onto that, it's not just developers that volunteer their time at camp. We've sort of got the way the curriculum is structured built into a little bit of a pyramid, in that most of the people that volunteer at camp actually don't need to have any prior experience in any form of software development in order to be able to volunteer. We have an orientation where we'll teach folks specifically what they need to know for the week, and that can be learned in a matter of hours. And in fact, as a result of our curriculum, we've actually had a number of volunteers go on and decide to teach themselves how to program. Being involved at camp made them realize that it was something that they could learn. But I think that's really important to mention, because I've heard a number of people say, "Oh, I'd really love to volunteer at App Camp, but I don't know anything about software engineering," and you really don't have to.
So this is App Camp for girls and volunteers, maybe.
It is. It really is. Yeah.
So let's go into weeds just for a second. Let's just say that I decide I want to volunteer for App Camp, name your city. What kind of time commitment am I getting myself into, and what kind of things do I need to do to call you up and say, hey, I would like to be a volunteer? What am I in for?
I would say that really depends on what role you're volunteering in. We had it set up before where you would need to give a week, which is really hard for a lot of people to take off an entire week and donate that time completely to App Camp. So we're revamping that model so that it can be a day or 2 days, or you come in and give a workshop for some of our developers in the afternoon. So it's really a matter of how much time you have available to give to camp, and then we can find a role for you in order to help us out. And it's not just volunteering directly with camps either. We have other ways that you can help volunteer for the organization as a whole, no matter where you are, whether there's a camp in your city or not.
And the other thing too that we didn't, and again, you can go back and reference some of the previous interviews that we've done with about App Camp for Girls. But this is not just the programming. This is the design aspect. This is the business aspect, which I always think is one of the most intriguing ideas of including that the campers have to figure out how they're going to sell this. And you have business people come in and the campers present to them. I love that idea because it really does show all the aspects of being a developer, a software developer. And, maybe business is not for you, but maybe the coding is, or maybe the coding isn't, but the design is. And maybe none of that is, but the business part is. So it really gives the campers a perfect way to get a taste of a lot of different things in the space of a week, not to mention teamwork and all the other aspects of doing the projects.
That's one of the things when I was doing Phoenix Camp. So the reason we're not doing Phoenix Camp currently is because I moved to Seattle, and it's pretty hard to organize a camp from 4 states away. But the thing that I heard both years I did it and the year I volunteered in Portland was consistently the kids were surprised that they could have careers in a technical arena without being developers. So there's always at least one of the participants who is really, really excited by doing the graphic design. They want to do all the drawing. And you have to really encourage other members of their team to do drawing because they're really into it. I have had discussions about usability and user experience and how you can have a career doing putting together user interfaces and user workflows. And that's one of the things that I think is so neat about App Camp and the model that we have right now is it really is this broad exposure to a lot of different areas of app and software development.
Yeah, the tech world is so big and there's so many different aspects to it that pretty much no matter what you're interested in, you can find a place there. And I think by its very nature, especially maybe not to the younger generations as much as some of the older generations, but it feels like one of the most intimidating fields to potentially get in because you think, gee, if I don't know anything about code, I probably have no place there. And nothing could be farther from the truth.
Well, and the fact of the matter is almost every career now is a tech career in some way. You have to know how to use a computer to some degree. You have to, even if you're in, say, construction or something, you're maybe approving payroll for employees and you're doing that on a computer. It's not all building infrastructure. It's not all databases. A lot of it is just learning how to use a computer efficiently enough that you can do your work. That's still technical. There aren't many careers now that don't have some kind of tech component to it.
That's a great point. And boy, I work in the insurance industry, and you would think that that's probably the least technical thing around, and quite the contrary. It's, these are no longer computers, I don't think, in the sense that we all grew up with them. They are now just tools. That's what we call them, and because that's what they are. But they don't have that glow around them maybe that they used to. And some people were attracted to that glow and some people were repelled by that glow. But now it's just, okay, it's one more tool and you really need to know how to use it because it's a tool that is pretty universal.
Mm-hmm.
So what do we have in store for 2019? What do you have camps scheduled at this point? And if you do, what cities are we talking about?
We're still working on scheduling camps for next year. That's a little bit up in the air as to which particular cities we'll be in, but we are working on that and we'll have that information out soon. So stay tuned.
And how long a lead time do you expect to be able to give folks to apply to go to camp?
It should be several months. We should know in late winter when we will have the camps and where, so people will know. Our registration won't open until a little bit later, but the schedules will be online.
Today's edition of MacVoices is brought to you by Opsgenie by Atlassian. Uptime is good, downtime is bad, and there are going to be incidents. That's just how it works. So how do you reduce downtime for your customers? Opsgenie by Atlassian is how. Opsgenie helps you and your team get alerts immediately when something goes wrong. But it's a huge waste of time and effort for everyone to get those alerts, especially if they happen to be on a holiday or at 3 a.m. That's why Opsgenie allows for deep flexibility in how and when alerts are deployed, with a smart combination of scheduling and escalation paths. The right people get notified at the right time, and everyone else gets their beauty sleep. But you already have all sorts of apps that do all sorts of things for you. That's why Opsgenie supports over 200 integrations with apps like Jira, Amazon CloudWatch, Datadog, New Relic, and more, so that implementing it in your workflow is simple. I told you about how I felt when a website I was trying to access was down for 30 minutes. How do you feel when that happens to you? Now, Imagine how your customers feel. That's a feeling you don't want them to have, right? That's why you need to visit Opsgenie at opsgenie.com right now and sign up for a free account. No, not a trial account, a free account. Then add up to 5 members of your team, also for free, and find out what Opsgenie can do for you. Opsgenie from Atlassian. Your next incident doesn't stand a chance. Thanks to Opsgenie for supporting this edition of MacVoices. Okay. Now that kind of takes me to another place I wanted to go. I really respect the fact that you all have kept camps manageable sizes, because I know that especially in the Portland area, it's been a big success, and there are a lot of people that would like to come, and you just, you can't accommodate too many people. You can accommodate what you're set up for. How do you go about choosing and accepting an applicant for camp?
It kind of varies based upon the city. There are some cities where we've had kind of a waitlist situation, and we've done a random selection. So whether that's, I think I think you told me at one point you were literally printing all of the names and like cutting them out and like literally drawing names from a hat for early camps. Am I misremembering that?
That's possible. I'm sorry.
I think we had this conversation because I knew that Portland was always waitlisted, and I was like, "What? How do you pick?" And it was just like a random selection process.
Yeah, I believe it's sort of a first come first serve thing until we're full. Anyway, but maybe
that's what we've moved to more lately, is more of a first come first served type situation, and we might reevaluate that later too, because part of what we want to make sure we're doing is giving everybody a fair shot. We don't the first people to register, typically the people who are really plugged in, parents who are plugged in to camp and are watching for registration dates. And, they have the higher tech salaries and kind of more capacity for planning how to get their child to and from camp and that kind of thing. And we want to make sure that we're also giving an opportunity to kids in underserved communities who maybe that's a little bit harder for their parents and they can't make the arrangements right away. So it's kind of a balance that we're still working on figuring out what is fair and equitable to do.
Yeah, and that's great, because the fact that you have that kind of demand, even if it is in just certain locales at this point, speaks to the quality of the experience and the fact that the campers want to come and the parents want to get them into this kind of thing. So it's phenomenal. So at this point, I guess, we need to talk about that dirty little subject called money, because these are not inexpensive. I mean, I know that it's run largely by volunteers, but I think there's there are always expenses whenever you put this kind of thing together. And I know you've done some different kind of fundraisers in different ways. A couple I'm familiar with, the fact that the apps that the girls develop are sold on the iTunes store, so that you can go and see what the girls learn and also contribute to App Camp for Girls. There's also the fundraisers that you've done at WWDC, which are always, first of all, a lot of fun, but you also go in knowing that you're supporting a great cause. Are there any other fundraisers planned at this point for this year that you can talk about?
We're playing around, and we don't have any super concrete plans. We're of course hoping for the WWDC fundraiser again this year. We are kind of tossing around some ideas for smaller scale fundraisers. So, in fact, as we're recording this tonight, we're having a movie night. So we're asking for $50 donations, and then we're going to discuss, we're all going to start Black Panther at the same time. And we're going to discuss it on Twitter and just have like a little party. And if people seem engaged in that, then we'll keep doing movie nights, maybe once a month. And something that I would like to start doing is maybe talking to people in areas where we don't have camp about doing fundraisers. Like maybe Michelle or I could fly out for a couple of nights and we could do an app camp meetup in a city. So we're tossing around ideas for both ways to help the community, the larger kind of Apple developer community, be involved and have a chance to talk with us and give us their ideas and meet with other people who are excited about camp too. And also, ways to earn money or raise money, because we are a nonprofit. And, nonprofits, we need money. It's hard. It can be really hard.
Yeah. So this is a virtual movie night thing.
It is. Yeah.
That's intriguing. I like that.
Yeah, it was, we were just tossing around ideas and someone was like, we need to have like a non-event event where people have permission to stay at home in their pajamas and not worry about getting dressed up to go anywhere, where they can relax, especially around Christmas and, the New Year. And we were like, yeah, we should totally try that and see how it works. So we're giving it a shot, see if people seem engaged with it.
I'm intrigued by this. So you're going to say at the stroke of whatever hour, maybe 8 p.m., everybody hits play on Black Panther, and then you're going to converse on Twitter.
Yeah, just whatever observations, for some people, hopefully it'll be their first time watching it, and maybe we'll get to see some fun reactions based on that. And, for me, there are some characters I'm particularly not enamored by, but I really admire. So I'm going to be talking about the science and tech side of things a lot, because there's some pretty cool, like Wakanda has some pretty cool tech. We've got to be real here. So I'm going to, I'm sure I'll be talking about that, but it's really just a way to get us connected, because I feel like that's a piece that we miss sometimes with camp. We get really involved kind of internally and talking to volunteers and planning the next fundraiser and planning the next camp season, planning curriculum changes. And we get kind of insular. And what I've really come to realize, what really became solid to me as Michelle and I and the board were talking about this executive director role or roles, was that App Camp is not just about the youth we serve. It's definitely about the youth we serve. Don't get me wrong. It's definitely about the youth we serve, but it's also about the community that we have, that we are in, and that we create. And I feel like App Camp is every much not as much about, but it is very much about the adult community who supports us. And I feel like something that Michelle and I are really committed to is reinforcing that and making sure that people feel involved with us, even if it's just talking about Black Panther on Twitter. It's a community that we value and appreciate and we want to foster, and not just in a, we really need financial help way, but also in a, we appreciate you, how can we help you type of way. Does that make sense?
Oh, listen, it makes perfect sense.
Okay.
In our technological world, and this is one of the reasons that I like to do video. Audio is great, and audio absolutely has its place, and frankly, most people consume this show with audio. But I think it's really important to put the faces on a screen somewhere that they can be seen, that these are real people doing real things. They're not just talking heads or voices coming out of a speaker, but they're real people doing real things, and trying to build that sense of community and interaction and friendship, so that, when next time I see Grey or Michelle or Aleen or wherever, whether it's CES or WWDC or just on a random trip somewhere, it's like, hey, you feel like it's a friend. It's somebody that you already know, that we've never met before, but you already know them for that reason. So yeah, I think it's something we all lose. Apple user groups I think, are struggling with the same thing, because we all get so wrapped up in the tech. You forget that half the fun is the people that you're doing it with or learning from or teaching to.
Yeah, exactly. It's one of the things that I really love about Seattle and the developer community here is, yes, there are monthly like meetups with technical talks where, people are delivering information to a group, but there are also once a month just meet up, let's grab a bite to eat and maybe some drinks, because they're trying to really foster both sides of that it is, yes, there's career development to be had here, but career development is not just about what you know, it's about how you talk with people, interact with people, relate to people, and who you know. And I think that they are equally important. It's, the stereotype of the programmer in their basement drinking Mountain Dew or whatever is, it's one, inaccurate, and two, if you try to emulate that, it's not something that's going to lead to a successful career. And people need community. Humans need community. It's important to foster.
Yeah. Well, I see light coming through Gray's windows, so right away that dispels the whole programming in the basement with no.
Oh, little do you know, I actually am all holed up in the basement when I'm not on a podcast.
Well, at this point, I guess, how can folks get involved? How can they? How do they volunteer for camp or suggest that they might be interested in trying to help you organize a camp somewhere? And of course, the ever important, how do you? Was that a cat?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's probably the 7th or 8th cat that's made an appearance on MacVoices. Yeah. No, how do they also contribute to App Camp for Girls? Michelle?
Well, we have several places that people can get in touch with us. If you want to contribute, you can do that on our website, appcamp4girls.com/contribute. You can also give through PayPal. There's a link at the bottom of that page if you want to do that. Or send us a check and mail it. We also have the address on the website. So you can do that if you want to give us some money. As far as volunteering and reaching out to us, you can contact us through that site. You can email us. Aleen and I both have our App Camp addresses. She's Aleen at appcampforgirls.com. I'm Michelle.Panulla at appcampforgirls.com. You can reach us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. We have a volunteer interest form on the website that will narrow down more specifics so that you can definitely be volunteering in a way that appeals to you. And I think that's it.
How do I go to the movie night?
Yeah, unfortunately, we won't be. The next movie night, we'll try to get the word out. How's that?
Awesome.
And a valid question is we also have a newsletter. So we announce things like the movie nights and that kind of thing on our newsletter. It has historically been a little bit hard to keep up with just because there's so much to do, but something I'm really hoping that I do. Something I will commit to do on this podcast right now is send out at least once a month a newsletter that announces things like movie nights and some of the community building things. Hopefully, Aleen and/or Michelle are coming to your city, come meet up with us or things like that. So that's also available on our website. So if you want to find out about those kinds of events, if you have ideas for events, we'd love to hear them. And also one way that you can kind of kick us a little bit of money if you want to is if you use Amazon, you can sign up for Amazon Smile, which costs you nothing extra, but Amazon will kick us a little bit of the purchases you make. And I found out yesterday that PayPal, you can donate part of your, if you make a sale on PayPal, you can donate part of your sale price to App Camp. So those are a couple of ways that are a little bit less I don't want to say less conscious, but like you don't have to think about as hard if you want to do that.
And you are a registered nonprofit, just to be very clear on this.
We are a registered nonprofit, yes.
Right. Okay. Aleen, you should never commit to anything on a podcast.
I know. I've been podcasting for 4 years and I still make this rookie mistake from time to time.
Grey, would you have ever thought that it could have gone this far when you started?
Oh, I hoped. I had hoped.
Well, it's great to see it. And folks, I'm quick to tell you that, there are a lot of great causes out there. And especially at this time of year, as we're recording this, there are always people asking for donations. And I want to say that Applicant for Girls is one that I really would encourage you to check out and try to support, because it invests not just in the future, but it invests in the future of the community that we all are a part of and really love so much. So let's go around the room. I always try to do this at the end of the show and let folks know where they can find you. I know all the AppCamp stuff is, but with other personal projects or ways they can get in touch with you that you prefer. Grey, where can folks find you?
You can find me on Twitter. I'm at UiPopTart. And then you can also, my AppCamp email address is grey@appcampforgirls. You can also reach out to me directly there.
Great. Aleen?
Oh boy. So I have a business called App Launch Map. I help indie iOS and Mac developers with the non-code side of launching their app. You can find that at applunchmap.com. I'm also writing a guide for developers so that they can kind of have a manual to get through app launches, because those can be pretty complicated. You can also find my podcast about creating and creativity at relay.fm/originality. And I'm also on the Incomparable Network podcasts from time to time. And finally, you can find me on Twitter. I'm at Aleen on Twitter, and that's my main social media hub these days.
Perfect. Thank you. Michelle, last but not least.
I have a website at michellepanulla.com. It's just the work website with lots of WordPress stuff on it. I'm also on Twitter. I am at MishiFeet, which I'm sure will be on the screen for people to see. And if for a more personal thing, if you want to check out my band, we're at piefightmusic.com.
Ooh, band. Okay. All right. Perfect. Well, thank you all for coming on and talking about AppCamp for Girls. It's the perfect way to start into 2019 is with the awareness of these kind of movements in this community. And it assures that things will continue to grow and expand. And the whole inclusive thing is very important to this community. And you all are definitely out there leading the charge. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Folks, I'm Chuck Joyner. This is MacVoices. One more time, AppCamp for Girls. That's with the number 4.com. Go check it out. Find out all about it and help support if you can. Until the next time, and as always, thanks for watching. Visit MacVoices.com for show notes and to connect with Chuck on social media. Get involved in our MacVoices Facebook group and get more out of your Apple Tech with MacVoices magazine, free on Flipboard. And if you find value in it all, consider supporting us at patreon.com/MacVoices and join these folks who help keep MacVoices coming to you. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by Cashfly at cashfly.com.